Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's explore a recent work scenario involving Lucy, who seems to thrive on urgency. Her expectation of being notified of every completed task, regardless of the hour or task significance, reached a tipping point. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. You need to call me whenever you finish these. I do contract database work for a handful of companies. Nobody pays me to be on call, so the general rule of thumb is if you need something done, give me a few days heads up, unless someone specifies that something is time sensitive and calls me to ask if I can bump it up. I tackle things in the order they were received. I've been somewhat overwhelmed with the volume of silly little tasks being thrown my way the past few weeks, but I get by on little sleep and then first place, so it's not unusual for me to be cranking out spreadsheets well after 10 p.m. For the most part, everyone's understanding and cooperative, but there's one person, we'll call her Lucy, who is simply not okay with me not responding to and taking care of her requests immediately. She'll send an email, a text after 5 minutes, and then call on repeat until I pick up if there's anything she'd like me to do. I started off with the impression that this was simply someone who's been ignored in the workplace before, and I didn't want to be the person who confirms, who concerns, so I spent some time kind of bending over backwards with whatever nonsense Lucy throws my way. About a week ago, Lucy sent me a massive list of unrelated tasks she'd like me to do. This has been her move lately as she tries to cut in line, come up with anything she might want done, and throw it out there at the beginning of the week. I gave Lucy a call to ask about prioritization as she makes everything out to be urgent. For context, anything being urgent means Lucy isn't doing her job correctly. When I asked what she'd like me to prioritize, Lucy laughed and said, "My email." I explained that I was already neck deep for the next few days and anything that isn't time sensitive will be taken care of in the order it was received. Lucy didn't like this. She started asking me if I would do it. If XYZ coworker had been the one who asked, I told her no. That really has nothing to do with this. And that the reason I'm calling is to make sure anything she actually needs done in a timely manner will get done. She became indignant and threatened to tell the chairman of the organization about how I was ignoring her. Kinda funny because that's who I was sitting with at the time. Needless to say, I wasn't too concerned about her threat, but this is when I realized her "nobody listens to me" shtick is just a manipulation tactic. Anywho, Lucy explains how little she cares, very little, and that if I can't be bothered to help her now, she wants me to call her whenever I get to each task from her list. I thought she was joking, kind of chuckled and asked if she really wants phone calls after 10 p.m. She must have thought I was exaggerating or trying to claim I'm an incredible worker because she responded with, "If you think you work harder than me, you're mistaken." Again, chuckled a bit and explained that I'm not necessarily busting my butt in the middle of the night. That just happens to be when some things get done. Went back and forth a bit, but she held her ground on demanding a phone call when I get to each task. Well, last night around 1 a.m., I got to one of her requests. Lucy wanted me to add someone's middle name to the email platform they use. This couldn't possibly be less trivial, certainly didn't have any follow-up questions about the task. I went back and forth about calling her, but I couldn't stop thinking about her attitude, belittling me, and most importantly, insisting she get a damn phone call no matter what time or how stupid. She answered the phone and said, "Never call me at this time again," and hung up. Deal. Should have asked her to repeat that last statement on calling the chairman and handed the phone to the chairman, and he'd be like, "Who the F is this?" And she'd never bother you again after that. And our second story. Stop being nice and helpful. Do your job as directed. Work as an EHS person for a manufacturing and repair company. I deal with the OSHA inspections, chemical management, and spill reporting. I do a lot of walk around and fix a lot of issues. Floor signs, door signs, blocked panels, trash, and other safety issues. I put in service requests for them to be fixed. Due to being sick, I got behind on my tasks, not by much, but enough I had to slow down to get them done, work a little overtime. Had a doctor's note for breathing issues and that I won't be at 100% for a while. Well, had my review for my position, being too nice, helping outside my position, not finishing jobs as directed. I needed to do my job as directed. My raise and bonus were not given this year for that. Okay, so I requested a job description and tasks. When I had them in an email, I said I would only be doing them because of my contract, and that's it. Confirmation email sent 10 minutes later for it. 3 months down the line, we have our big audit. My side of EHS of the department was given 95 of 100. Very good score. I was docked 5 on the issue with chemical management. We had 3 drums get misplaced for about a month. This is a huge facility, 4 different buildings at 400 to 500,000 square feet. So I took my issues and went about my day. They have some point system for the audit. 1 week later, we had a meeting about the audit. Rest of EHS ended up with a 79 to 82 for the audit. They had 19 floor and wall signs that had been damaged, 10 blocked panels, 2 mislabeled waste bins, 3 waste bins without labels, and many more. In my company, you have 2 main groups, green badge full-time and yellow badge contractors. I'm contracted and have been the past 6 years. The one in charge of the inspections that had issues are full employees. They noticed I stopped putting in the maintenance request to have stuff fixed. I ended up telling them that I had my review and was told being too nice, helpful, and to do my job as directed. I gave the head of the department, his company manager, and the other rep that had come in the emails. My direct boss tried to say he did not mean that, but the emails showed what I was to do. I was taken aside with my direct boss and the main EHS department bosses and my contracted company rep, talked to about expanding my scope of work to back to reporting and maintenance requests. I said if my bonus and raise from last year are given and an adequate raise for my new responsibilities are given, then I'd consider it. They complied with my request and gave me more on my bonus because of getting the highest score on the audit. The EHS team I work for at my facility is 9 people. We had 5 new by the end of the month. I guess malicious compliance worked in my favor. See, this is a group of managers who can at least recognize that they messed up and they're willing to make it right. With scores that low, they were probably sweating that they were going to have a serious incident any day, and OSHA would be all over them with violations. Congrats on the promotion and raise. Sounds like management finally recognizes that they need you to do what you'd been doing. And our next story. Giving a little back to a Karen. Years ago, I worked in a place doing clerical work before I started in IT. Moved to IT in the same company. But while I was doing the clerical stuff, a coworker's girlfriend had been put on page 3 of The Sun. This was in Ottawa, so it was a bikini shot, tasteful and no nudity. He was quite happy with this and had the photo on the wall by his desk, where he had a photo of him and her together. Enter Karen. Real name Tina. She had the haircut, was brunette, and was just ugly. I mean, beauty's just skin deep, but ugly's to the bone. She was not the best to look at, but her disposition was just as unappealing. She went to HR, said that she felt sexually harassed, that he had a photo of his girlfriend at his desk. With some regret, management advised him that he had to take it down. A couple days later, I walked by her desk, and she had a load of underwear advertisements on her wall, Calvin Klein, etc., guys all buff, etc., and I figured, what the hell? So I told her that she needed to take those down because I felt sexually harassed by them. I received a torrent of abuse, and the kicker was that a woman could not possibly harass a man. With a smile on my face, I left the scene and went to the same manager that told the other one to take his girlfriend's photo down, explained the discussion and my feelings on the matter and how I felt, and that it was discriminatory for them to allow her to keep these underwear models on her wall while someone couldn't have a photo of his girlfriend on his. Management agreed with me. Tina was ordered to remove the photos and not have anything like that again, or there would be consequences. The absolute best part of the whole thing is that Tina refused to ever speak to me again and would leave if I entered an area. Never had to look at her ugly bug for more than a couple seconds ever again. And our last story. The tyranny of Suburban HOA. So my homeowners association is tucked away in little suburban Florida. The association itself is overseen by a proxy company, which is owned by yet another company. These companies act like absentee landlords for the most part. We'll encounter them later. The association was headed up by 2 people who both lived in the nicest houses in the neighborhood, and whom no one ever really figured for any kind of sociopaths. Oh boy, were we wrong. Things start off small. Oh, your grass is an inch too high, or oh, your mailbox isn't signed regulations. All fairly small stuff with fairly small penalties. No biggie. This trend, however, quickly escalated over the course of only a few weeks, until many people in the neighborhood would be receiving letters detailing either untrue or impossibly minute problems with their property that must be fixed within the next few weeks, or they'd be fined anywhere from $200 to $1,000. As one might imagine, the neighborhood was outraged and quickly set up a new election for who would be the chairman, or whatever the actual title is, of the association. The election was a troubling event that showed the leaders' true colors. Many absentee ballots were sent in from houses throughout the neighborhood in favor of the present chairman, under the names of the people residing in those houses. However, many of the aforementioned people were present at the election and protested the use of their ballots, but their effort were in vain. In an attempt to seek some reason from an authority above the people of my neighborhood, many residents attempted to contact the parent company of the association, who didn't respond to even one single solicitation. Defeated on that front, the neighborhood decided to hold as many elections as they possibly could in an attempt to oust the present leadership. However, anyone who was known to be on board with the opposition would receive slashed tires and heinous defamation of character to varying degrees. The most prevalent example of the lengths the leadership went was a man living in the neighborhood attended an election and voted against the leadership. The next day, the leadership sent a letter to his commanding officer, the resident was in the military, saying terrible things about him: drunkard, rabble-rousing, general belligerence, etc. After many attacks on their property and even on their person, many in the neighborhood put cameras up all over their property. This, however, did not deter the leadership from committing their deeds of terrorism to the rest of the community. Eventually, one of the heads of the small-scale rebellion in the neighborhood hired legal counsel and sued the leadership on various charges. However, the legal counsel for the leadership was paid for by the HOA, and so it scarcely affected them personally. All this culminating in an election where multiple police were present as a peacekeeping entity, where the chairman attacked a police officer after he refused to arrest another man who snatched papers out of her hand, after which she promptly pretended that he had twisted her wrist and claimed he assaulted her. All this to say FHOA. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.